Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time it is in the world, wherever you are tuning in from. I'm afraid the latest news from Rome is rain. So for now, you're just going to get me talking about the day thus far and any other news in tennis, including, for example, the retirement of Camila Giorgi, which, unless Twitter has been informing me wrong all day, and sometimes that does happen, she has retired from professional tennis. I'm going to put her name into the search just because sometimes you get these little bits of information and then they end up not being true. But it seemed pretty solid in terms of the fact I think it was on one of the websites, one of the official websites, where it was no longer showing her as a professional player anymore and showing her as retired. And it does seem to be the case. Although, as I also saw someone else tweet today, Camila Giorgi retiring in a very Camila Giorgi way, in a sort of mysterious way, let's say. So at least that's how it seems for now. I have got a poll going as to who you think is going to win between Dan Evans and Fabio Fognini. So do get voting in that poll. It's a 70-30 more or less swing at the moment in favor of the British player. So do get voting in that poll. Also, of course, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let's see if the rain eases off and we do get some action. I will be with you for about 15 to 20 minutes. If we get some action at some point during that 15-20 minutes, or we see some optimism showing the rain easing off, we will go ahead with the match. However, at the moment, I think the prognosis is not great. It looks like I've got Nick Carter hovering. Does this mean that Nick Carter is going to be joining me? We'll find out. Give me the thumbs up. Are you ready, Nick? Yes, he's ready.
How are you? I'm ready, John.
I like that response. So I was just sharing the kind of, I shared two pieces of information thus far. One, it's still raining in Rome, but maybe you know even more about the prognosis than I do. I've just turned on my TV. It's been raining on and off most of the afternoon and evening, right?
Yeah. So not too much in the detail. So I was checking live scores at work, and I could see that obviously they were they'd been suspended due to rain, and then I had to leave work and I checked scores and I was like, oh, Cannon managed to win her match. So I was like, okay,
yeah,
there's hope. Turned on the TV and the coverage was discussing various different players, showing interviews, and basically for the last sort of hour or so, they've been showing highlights of the Swiatek Sabalenka final from Madrid. So yeah, at the minute, the prognosis does not look good. There does seem to be some determination to try and get something started, but given it's 20-9 in Rome, it's 20-10 in Rome. Even it's not great.
Yes, 10. Yeah, I've basically shared with the audience as well the fact that if we don't get the match underway, or we see some, covers coming off in the next 20 minutes, we will probably abandon ship as well. But we'll be back with live streams later on in the week. But in the meantime, I also thought, well, let's talk about some tennis news. And of course, I was thinking about some of the matches that have already taken place today. But before even that, Camila Giorgi retiring. What do you make of that?
Well, you're getting my live reaction to that
news
because I have not been on social media all day. So, Camila Giorgi retiring. How long has this been out, and is this her last tournament?
6 hours, and there's still a bit of mystery regarding it, by the way, because she's not said anything publicly, but it's a bit more solid than an Austrian newspaper reporting on Dominic Thiem, which, by the way, may end up being the case. But basically, I think it's something to do with one of the official websites is showing her as retired, ITIA. So Italian star Camila Giorgi is apparently retired from pro tennis at the age of 32, one of the biggest hitters of her generation. Yeah, so it's on this particular website, and there's been no rebuttal or refuting of the case, but there's also been no 100% confirmation.
ITA, that's the Italian Tennis Federation. That's not anything to do with like the drug control, is it?
No, not that I'm aware of. No, although having said that, hang on. It does say anti-doping on this particular website.
I'm pretty sure that's the anti-tennis doping site.
Okay, Steve Johnson's name there. Yeah.
which
So let's see how this story evolves anyway. Um,
yeah, integrity agency. So I guess she would have had to let them know if she was retiring. Either that, or we're about to get a double retirement announcement and something else.
yeah.
But Georgie retiring. I mean, look, she's in her 30s now. She's had she's always been a player that's kind of blown hot and cold throughout her career. Obviously, getting red hot in that Canada Masters title that she won in 2021.
Yeah.
Couple
Montreal,
of Wimbledon quarterfinals to her name, and she's 32 now. It wouldn't surprise me if she went, do you know what? I've been doing this long enough, and I'm not going to get anything, and not believing that she's going to get anything more out of it. And Camila Giorgi has always been someone who does what she wants, really, doing things her own way. So whilst I am a little surprised because I thought she may have had a little bit more to give, her leaving maybe doesn't surprise me in terms of maybe trying to imagine the thought process behind it. So that makes complete sense. I will.
She's always been a bit of an enigma, no? Is that fair?
Yeah, she's been a character for sure. She's always done things her own way. She's always stuck with her father as a coach, even though he's a controversial figure. She's always kind of worn her own tennis attire. She's not really had a sponsor for it. I think her mum's always made her dresses for her or something like that. Yeah, just she's always been one of those big hitters, an Ostapenko type, if you will, who hits big and doesn't seem to want to adapt and just hope that will work for a week. And yeah, enigma in terms of sort of reputation. You know, some people found her very difficult to deal with. Some people think she's absolutely lovely. Maybe it depends on where you got her on the day. But yeah, Camila Giorgi retiring. I think thinking about it, not a massive shock. I wouldn't be. I'm not gonna say the tour's going to miss it, but I think she was an interesting element that the tour had.
Definitely, yeah. And peak Georgie was extremely good. I guess you didn't get to see her in Birmingham last year because I think she went out early to Venus Williams, right? But I
Yeah,
remember Jamie had one or two anecdotes about her father. I think, is he a smoker maybe? And he would occasionally have a cigarette and stuff and come back. So there was a couple of funny anecdotes I remember from there. But that was also a pretty rough defeat for her. I think she didn't take it too well. And again, we had sort of very good peaks in that match, but one or two lows as well. And of course, losing the match in 3 sets, I think, in the end. Yeah, so that's the case at the moment. Let's see if she comes out with a public statement, but it's it's still a bit mysterious the way it's come out, but it is being taken at least by, some fairly trustworthy sources as fact. But yeah, the ITIA is also a funny place to sort of release that information. So we'll see if there's any other layers to this story, but it'd be nice if Camila came out and just sort of had a nice statement on the issue to close it one way or another.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's been 7 or 8 hours that, if this was me and I hadn't retired, I'd be certainly putting out a statement to say that, it's not the case. But yeah, there we go. So Camila Giorgi goes quietly, it seems.
Yeah. Is she playing in Rome? I think.
Well, that's the other thing as well. So it's not like, the team rumor, which is all it is at the moment, albeit that it has been reported on, is that he will be calling it a day this year, and there is a timeline in terms of finishing in Vienna. But Camila Giorgi just seems to be like,
nah, I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, is she due to play in
No,
Rome?
I've just googled it. I mean, I can't find Google's not coming up with any.
Maybe she was never on the player list in the first place. Maybe she's been injured, whatever. So we'll see.
Very interesting outcome, it has to be said. Yeah, she certainly wasn't due to play today.
No, but anyway, so we'll see if how this one evolves. But for now, at least, it appears that Camila Giorgi has left the sport, silently walks away, as tennis.com reports on it. Appears on the ITIA's retired players list. Okay, moving on. Also regarding retirements and all the rest of it, Diego Schwartzman. He has also announced a planned sort of rest of his career, which I think will finish in Argentina in February. So quite a while yet for him. But in terms of results, I think he lost again today as well. But it's actually not been a bad Rome tournament for him in terms of the fact that at least he made it through the qualifiers.
Yeah, and actually pretty well. And I do wonder whether retirement might finally admitting he's retiring might loosen it up in the way that Andy Murray did before he and Daniel Collins as well, before Murray's injury. I could see that happening for Schwarzman, particularly on the clay. But so this retirement news comes as no surprise. It's been kind of rumbling on for some time, and I think that he's had a good career, but he's clearly losing his effectiveness on tour, and he doesn't want to kind of grind it out on challenges for the rest of his career, not after the highs that he's had. So, calling it a day in Buenos Aires, it seems appropriate for him, and wish him well in the remaining year or so he has.
Yeah, again, I think there's also the enjoyment factor. Maybe he's not been enjoying his tennis, so maybe right now he can enjoy. He sent out a nice tweet. I actually did watch the first 2 or 3 games of this match with Vukic, and it was super competitive, but it appears to have run away from him in both sets at the same stage. But yeah, Schwarzman, his timeline is until February. I think Daniel Collins is just saying this year. Rafa, at least as far as we're aware and as far as he's aware, I think is also saying the same for this year. Andy Murray's sort of unofficial timeline that he has put on it was this summer. Again, that's quite a loose period of time. I think for a lot of these players, I guess maybe even results dependent. Like, if Rafa is just suddenly losing matches left, right, and center, he might say, okay, I'll see if I can, get in the Olympics and then call it a day. Same with Andy. But if Andy's winning matches, and same with Rafa, I think they'll try and keep going at least until, maybe US Open and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, Murray's talking about the summer. I think the Olympics is the latest tournament that he said he's going to be in. And actually, there's talk of him playing the Olympics he's going to play the French Open with Evans. So he wants to do the doubles in the Olympics at the very least. I am pessimistic about Andy's chances, at least in singles. I think from talking to some people that I know kind of personally, who have actual sort of physiotherapy experience and actually do their job is treating injuries, him not doing the surgery is going to massively hold him back. But I think Olympics might be where he bows out. I don't know how fast he is about doing one more US Open, especially if this injury just, he's just going to be battling through whatever matches he has. Olympics might be appropriate for him to call a day. Nadal, Laver Cup, it seems to be where the latest he's committed to. And if he's going to follow the pattern established by Roger, I think that's probably where that's where he's bowing out. I don't sort of see him having any particularly fondness for the post-US Open tournaments enough to play them one more time. It wouldn't be like if Roger was doing a farewell tour, he'd want to probably do Basel one more time or something like that. So,
as I say, I think with probably maybe even more so with Rafa, actually, we still don't know much of the timeline. But as you say, we've got that Laver Cup. But I don't know if he will have any Davis Cup influence in terms of where his ranking is and whether he can make the Spanish team again. That might be something of interest. But say again.
I say that's fair. I hadn't thought of Davis Cup.
Yeah, I mean, of course, they've got to qualify for the final 8, but they'll have their September thing, which I guess will be before the Laver Cup, I think. But we'll see. As I say, I think a lot of it is results, and he seems to be quite optimistic about his Rome chances. At least he thinks he's sort of playing better and feeling better than he was in the build-up to both Barcelona and Madrid. So that's good signs from him. Just coming back to Andy Murray, though, we have actually had some news as well regarding Andy today. He's been given a wild card for Geneva. He's due to play the French Open. He's also signed up for Stuttgart. So with that in mind, and bearing in mind he didn't play the French Open last year at all, and, he signed up for the French Open this year, I imagine that means he won't do Surbiton, that challenger that falls in the second week of the French Open. Unless he feels super, super good and he feels as though he can play some matches in Surbiton and then nip over to Stuttgart. But that'll be a lot of tennis in a short space of time for someone who's been off the tour for 2 or 3 months now.
Yeah, still carrying that ankle problem as well. And he's going to want to kind of build back up on the grass. I think it also is going to depend a lot on, as I said, his doubles campaign with Evans. if they make it into second week, he's definitely not playing Surbiton. So at the minute,
You mean you mean playing doubles at the French Open with Evans?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
so
yeah.
If he and Evans make second week, he's definitely not playing Surbiton.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be beyond the realms. Evans is also a very good doubles player, but I think this is all in aid of much as the French Open is an established tournament. Murray doesn't necessarily have much of a history at the French Open other than that sort of a final appearance in 2016. He's doing this as Olympic preparation, I think. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm with you. I don't see him playing Surbiton unless he crashes out early in both results and feels like he needs grass court matches under his belt before he does Stuttgart, which I think is an interesting choice on his part. It has to be said.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, obviously slightly different to last year when he, as I say, played Surbiton and didn't play the French Open, and this year he's sort of switching that.
He's also signed up for Queens, which is the week after Stuttgart. So yeah, maybe the Surbiton week he just wants he'll want a week off.
Yeah, maybe as well. Maybe he's just trying to change things up in terms of maybe Wimbledon didn't quite go as well as he hoped last year. I know it was a super competitive match that he had against Stefanos Tsitsipas, but maybe he's just thinking, I don't know, maybe I need to raise my level a bit rather than playing at the challenger level at Surbiton. Maybe I need to get in amongst the sort of top 20, 30 players in the world, your Tiafos and your Jan-Lennard Struffs, who I guess will probably both be in Stuttgart. They certainly were last year, if I remember rightly, in the final.
I mean, that gamble may well pay off. It may not, because if he crashed out both rounds, he's going to have he's probably going to crash out. He's going to crash out the top 100, which won't affect him being able to play Wimbledon because he's already I think he's pretty well qualified for that. Like the entry list comes out a week on Monday. He'll be not entry list, but like the confirmation, like the top 104 will be decided by sort of the rankings after Rome. He's well inside the top 100 for that, but and it won't affect the Olympics either because the challenger points will drop off after the French Open, and the French Open rankings will decide the Olympics. But I would see. I could see him potentially then needing a wild card for the US Open if he did want to keep that going. If, say, he crashes out, doesn't get very far. Eleanor obviously pointing out rightly that he's made a Stuttgart final before. Wasn't that the year that then he immediately had a problem and had to miss Queens?
Oh, really?
Or was that last year? No, it was. I'm trying to. Yeah, I think that was.
He's just trying to. He must think as well. Because I think he's still. He's not. Like both him and Rafa, of course, it is a farewell tour, but they want to give themselves the best chances of success for Andy in particular, Wimbledon, and for Rafa in particular, the French Open. So as much as they also want to say goodbye, they also want to give themselves chances. So I think, it's not like Andy's going, I must tick off Stuttgart before I retire. I think he's going, do you know what? Maybe he's looking at something. Maybe his team have said something, maybe they're going, Surbiton, we can play it and we can win it, but we would rather play 2 or 3 matches against the top 30, 40 players in the world than 4 or 5 against the top 100. We just want to do a different approach. Maybe he feels he went into Wimbledon last year with, yes, he had plenty of grass court matches underneath him, but maybe he didn't feel, I think he went out super early in Queens, maybe even first round to De Minaur maybe last year.
Yeah, that's right. Which was a tough draw.
Of course it is. It's super tough, but maybe he'd rather play, a 250 and a 500 than a challenger and a 500 before Wimbledon, and he'd rather, maybe if he, if maybe he goes out early in Stuttgart, maybe he can find some other grass court practices at the very least to get him ready. But so that's Andy Murray.
There's an element there as well that the players know the conditions, and for what I know, Stuttgart plays pretty quick. Same with Wimbledon. Maybe Stuttgart is a better sort of vibe for the kind of play he's going to get at Wimbledon compared to somewhere like, it would be Nottingham the week it clashes with, or Surbiton.
I'm just putting the Surbiton thing out there just because I think that's the thing. So maybe you would think, we often think of countries, don't we? And we go, well, obviously the clay in the UK is going to be more similar. Sorry, the clay, not many clay courts, certainly not professional ones in the UK. But maybe he knows that the grass in Stuttgart maybe is not like Halle, because Halle's the one we often go, well, Roger aside, that's not going to tell us very much. whereas queens might. And there was that Haller curse, wasn't there, for a long time, albeit I think Bublik broke it last year in terms of going out the first round at Wimbledon. But yeah, maybe Stuttgart is quicker, and maybe that's more like, especially the first few days at Wimbledon. Anyway, that is the Andy Murray schedule. At the moment, I think we are kind of in the zone now of sort of thinking that there's going to be, all I've got is Mensik against Hanfman on my screen. I guess you've still got the Sabalenka.
No, they wrapped that up. They did a pretty quick highlights package. They've now moved on to the 2023 Rome final between Rune and Medvedev, starting in the second set.
Oh, okay. Well, that's also a clue. Because if you'd said they've gone back to the studio and they're sort of looking at the courts, we could at least then say, well, it's raining or not, and that might give us a clue. But my match is actually they're showing Hanfman against Mensik earlier, and I'm guessing Matt Hanfman ends up emerging the winner in this one because he's up very handily. Hanfman. But yeah, so sometimes, but the fact that they've gone to, what did you say, like the second set or something of that particular clash?
Second set, Rune Medvedev, last year's final.
Beginning of the second set.
Yeah. So it's they've been replaying it since the beginning, and it's that's where we're going. By the way, Hanfman beat Menchik 6-3, 6-2.
Yeah, I'm seeing it at 5-2 in the second set. So that's a good win for the German. I'm going to have to wrap this up in the next couple of minutes. I'm just going to have a quick look at some scores from today. I don't know if you've seen some scores and thought, oh, that one stood out to me. I know Leylah Fernandez losing yesterday was one that was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. I thought she had a good chance against Bogdan. No offense to Bogdan, but that's the kind of player you would expect Fernandez to beat, especially on clay. So yeah, a little bit of an underperformance there from Leylah.
I remember seeing the beginning of that match today.
Osaka winning was a good result for her. I didn't think she was going to get through Burrell, who's an accomplished clay court player.
She was up 5-3, Osaka. So I see that she ended up needing a tiebreak in the end for the first set, albeit she ran away with a second.
Yeah, I didn't need it in the second.
Kenin, that's a nice win for her, because I remember her getting a really good win over Sabalenka a year ago.
Yes, Kenin, I didn't expect her to do well, but sort of, especially given she was playing in Italian. She's Bronzetti, who I thought might have crowd backing. Kenin a bit out of sorts, but yeah, that's a good win for Kenin, who's desperate to get her mojo back. The other one I kind of caught was Brenda Kvitova beating Taylor Townsend from a set down and bageling her in the decider. Obviously the 16, or is she still 16? Might be 17 nearly now, but that's a good win for the teenager against a tricky player, especially on clay. Still kind of trying to get herself sort of an Andreeva, make some Andreeva star waves there, Brenda Kvitova.
There's one more score on my screen I want to highlight, and then I want to very quickly talk about my suggestion, which I think you'll probably agree with, for Jakub Bobro Player of the Week, which I didn't get around to organising before the WTA and ATP Weekly, but I'll mention that in a second. But just quickly, because I've got to finish as well. Actually, Laura Siegemund, I was watching her match today, and she was being, I was going to say blown off the court. That's too much of an exaggeration, but she was being outplayed for a first set and a half, even, because she was down a break in the second set. So it's really good to see her gaining parity and forcing a third. But obviously that's one of the matches that's now been halted due to the rain. But one more is to mention who I think you'll agree with for the Jakub Bobro Player of the Week. It's on the women's side, so it's a sort of a break from the last few weeks. And I think our Jakub Bobro Player of the Week, from basically the sort of performer in Madrid, for me, would be Bejlek, if I'm pronouncing her name right.
Yeah, Bejlek, yes. The WTA need to get her pronunciation on the website.
Yeah, that's right. That's one of those there. I forget who it was. It might have been you on a stream, or someone was on a stream.
It was me.
It was you. Yeah, it was. Yeah, not sure how to pronounce her name. But yeah, I think Bejlek, with the distance she made, she's obviously didn't make the top 100, but I think she's just outside at around about 114, I think, or 113 in the world. But beating Wickmeyer and Kruger, Kalinskaya, that's the big one in straight sets, en route to before losing in the round of 16 to Rebecca. And of course, there's no shame in that.
No, absolutely. And actually, she showed some impressive results. I think she broke Rebecca once or twice in that match as well. She definitely threw everything she had at Rebecca in that match. Came up with some really nice angles play. and tried to fend her off. And she's clearly not ready to compete with her yet. But Bejlek is someone who's been talked about for a while. I remember, she was the first match of the year we covered when she played Fernandez at the Australian Open, and I think she's last 16 runs kind of confirmed why she's one to watch. So yeah, Sarah Bejlek, definitely worthy of the award.
Okay, well, there's no imminent play in Rome, so I think given the time in the UK, 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock in Central European time, where I'm based, I think we're going to call it a night, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize for not bringing you Dan Evans against...
apologize to the rain, John.
Yeah,
make the rain apologize.
The thing is, they still might take to the court, but to be honest with you, it doesn't look like there's no normally I have a time on my screen, it's like next inspection will be, but it doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon. I did want to have a debate, but we'll probably save it for another day, and it'll reappear no doubt at various points in the next day or two, about the roof. But because time has run out on me in particular, I think we're going to call an end to this stream. Thank you for those who did tune in for our little chat about Camila Giorgi and her retirement, and Bejlek and getting her Jakub Bobro Player of the Week. Yeah, I can. Now they've shown the courts, and it's got play suspended. The floodlights are on, but there's not a single person there. I would not be surprised if they don't play a single ball or point for the rest of the evening. So, on that note, on that wet note, not for the first time in the last 12 months in Rome, we're going to call it a night. Thank you for hopping on, by the way, Nick, and we'll catch up soon.
Catch you soon, hopefully for a tennis match.
Yeah, fingers crossed. All right, guys, speak to you soon. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and all that other jazz, and you're going to get that same message again from me. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.